Thank you, Dr. Benishek. It's again, you think about the dignity of the human person, and as he talked about the importance of the right to life, just a fundamental right. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the first right in our founding documents, and again, the first freedom being the freedom of religion. It's amazing to me how the freedom of religion in this country has informed the world. And what took root in this country 240 years ago, the notion that we were not going to have an established church and that we were going to allow people to freely exercise their faith. And how that has led to this proliferation in our country of the practice of faith, and to compare what has happened in the United States versus other countries, particularly in Europe, where there was an established church. How we know that more people go to church in this country than in Europe. And it was the American experience, I think, that has really informed others, including the Catholic Church, of which I'm a member. And I hark back to what President Washington had written to the congregation, the Hebrew congregation. Quote, "The citizens of the United States of America have a right to applaud themselves for having given mankind examples of an enlarged and liberal policy, a policy worthy of imitation. All possess alike liberty of conscience and immunities of citizenship." It's amazing to look at that letter and then to reflect how the Catholic Church came together under now Pope St. John the 23rd with the Second Vatican Council, which the whole idea was to open up the church and to engage modernity and to see what was out there that might inform how people are ordering their lives. And the Second Vatican Council issued a number of remarkable documents, including a declaration on religious freedom, Dignitatis Humanae. It states, "The exercise of religion of its very nature consists before all else in those internal, voluntary, and free acts whereby man sets the course of his life directly toward God. No merely human power can either command or prohibit acts of this kind." I think the Second Vatican Council, they had to recognize how religious freedom developed in this country, because there was no coercion. And again, the long history going back hundreds of years, centuries, back to the Roman martyrs, where the emperor was forcing people to act against their conscience. King Henry VIII. And here we have today an all-powerful federal government sitting in judgment on what somebody's sincerely held belief is. The court needs to protect this fundamental freedom. The court needs to protect conscience. This country is a better place because of it. It's interesting because as the Affordable Care Act has been implemented, the purported compelling interests that the government use about providing access to health care, they have set up a regime, a scheme, where not every single plan is being required to provide the services that the Little Sisters of the Poor find objectionable, or that the Diocese of Pittsburgh would find objectionable, or Geneva College, a Christian college in my district, would find objectionable, because they grandfathered some plans. They grandfathered plans that cover millions of people So I guess it's a compelling interest when they're going after a little charity, a little religious charity, but it's not a compelling interest if they're going against a big corporation that might have a grandfathered plan. Oh, it's just signing a little paper, sister. No, it's not. It's coercion. You know, if the Little Sisters of the Poor are providing health insurance to their employees, without the mandated services that include abortion-causing drugs, if they provide a health plan that covers cancer, covers maternity benefits, covers a broken bone at the emergency room, but doesn't cover those services they found objectionable, they will be fined $36,500 a year for one person. For one person. All told, when you add it all up, $70 million. But if they provide no plan at all, it's $2,000 per employee. If that doesn't send a message of coercion, I don't know what does. I urge the court to recognize the right of conscience and to be tolerant of that. This country is a wonderful country. You know, tolerance, it's one of the words that we have inscribed down here on the rostrum of the House of Representatives. Tolerance. It's a two-way street, Mr. Speaker, and I would urge the folks at Health and Human Services to give a better appreciation for tolerance. This country it just has a long history of protecting religious freedom. From the very beginning, through the movement to abolish slavery, through the movement to ask for the cashing of the promissory note that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King talked about, to the pro-life movement, to the charities, the hospitals, the clinics, the schools, the food banks that have all been run by religious organizations. It's about these organizations wanting to take care of people. Although not a party to the case, I think of a story involving the Missionaries of Charity, the order founded by Blessed Teresa of Calcutta, who will be canonized a Catholic saint this September by Pope Francis, who spoke here in this chamber. Mother Teresa's nuns have established a number of homes around the world. We know that they had a home for the elderly in Yemen. And some of those residents were murdered just weeks ago by radical jihadists. And 4 of the sisters were murdered as well. But Mother Teresa has established homes in our country, and I'm mindful of a home. I remember hearing a story about a home in San Francisco in either the late 80s or early 1990s. A home that was caring for people with AIDS. And a story of one gentleman who was going to die, and he needed a place to stay. The Missionaries of Charity took him in, and they nursed him back to health. And he went back out, continued his life, but got sick again and came back again. The sisters welcomed him back. And as he neared the end of his life, he was scared. Until Mother Teresa picked him up in his arms. And for once in his life, he found unconditional love and peace. Because a person of faith that we all recognize did great things because of faith, that person found peace. Millions of people in this country have found peace because of the free exercise of religion. Let's not crush that. Let's protect these fundamental freedoms, of religious freedom, the tremendous good that is being done. You know, we should not make religious organizations adjuncts of the all-powerful federal government. You can practice your charity as long as you do it the way we want you to. We lose something there, Mr. Speaker.